Stop for a moment. Hold your breath. Don't move. Listen carefully, because something is happening to you right now, and it is not coming from this world. There is a pull in your chest, a trembling in your spirit, a pressure around your thoughts that you cannot explain. Something ancient, something holy, something you have been avoiding for far too long is opening its eyes inside you, and the realm of heaven is leaning in to confront what you tried to escape. You can feel it like a soft crack in the atmosphere around you, a vibration spreading through your bones, a quiet echo saying, "This is the moment you cannot run from." And whether you admit it or not, you know exactly why. A hidden truth has been following you, calling you, correcting you, asking you to return before the consequences of ignoring it become too heavy to carry. And now that voice is no longer whispering. It is standing in front of you. Before we go deeper, I want you to pause and release what you've been holding inside your heart. In the comments, write your warmest wishes and declare 777 as your activation code. Because heaven responds to the honesty you reveal. This moment is personal, it is spiritual, and it is the turning point your soul has been silently begging for. You have been feeling the weight of delaying what you know you should have fixed, the spiritual tension of walking away from the path carved for you, and the emotional cost of ignoring inner warnings. What you are feeling right now is the gentle but firm hand of the divine, confronting the places where you refused to change. So write your desires, release the pressure you've been carrying, and then like this message and subscribe with full intent. Do it as an act of alignment, as a sign that you are stepping into obedience. Do it now, because from this moment forward, heaven will treat you according to truth, not excuses. You have been drifting between two worlds, the life you were called to live and the life you settled for. Deep down, you know there is a command written into your very DNA, a pattern of obedience and reverence coded into your creation. When you ignore that code, your body reacts, your spirit reacts, your dreams react. That is why you have been feeling spiritually suffocated at times, mentally drained, physically heavy, as if something inside you is shutting down slowly. It is not punishment. It is a divine recalibration, a supernatural biology responding to misalignment. Heaven is not trying to hurt you. It is trying to save you from the consequences of leaving your destiny waiting in the cold. You were not made to wander. You were made to walk in precision. There are things you have brushed aside, thinking they were small, but in the unseen realm, nothing is small. A choice you postponed, a promise you forgot, a calling you stepped away from, an instruction you promised to follow tomorrow. But tomorrow never came, and every postponed decision created a tear in the frequency of your life, a small distortion in your spiritual timeline. Angels have been watching you step in and out of alignment, trying to protect you, trying to guide you, trying to hold back storms that were rising because of your own decisions. But even angels cannot override a human being's refusal to listen. And now those delayed storms are forming around you, not to destroy you, but to push you into the truth you have ignored. There is a part of you that has been asleep, a part of you that once burned with clarity, purpose, and fierce devotion. That part of you remembers Eden. It remembers purity. It remembers the voice that called you by name before you were even born. And each time you drifted, that sacred memory dimmed. But now it is awakening again. Your cells are remembering who you are. Divine rewiring is beginning in places you cannot see. This is why you've been feeling emotional for no reason, stirred at odd moments, shaken by dreams that felt too real. Heaven has begun a cellular reconstruction, activating the Eden memory inside you so that you can no longer pretend you don't know the truth. Someone watching this has been experiencing a strange pressure in their chest, an unexplainable heat in their hands, or sudden waves of heaviness when they think about their future. This is not anxiety. This is not fear. This is a spiritual alarm. Angels have been touching the areas of your being that have grown numb from avoidance. They are performing surgery in realms your eyes cannot see, removing old attachments, breaking hidden agreements, and pulling out spiritual toxins that entered when you walked away from obedience. You may feel tired. You may feel restless. You may feel like you're being stretched and pulled. All of it is part of the reconstruction. Another person listening right now has been living inside the consequences of ignoring a divine instruction for years. You wondered why relationships kept failing, why peace never stayed, why something always collapsed right before breakthrough. It is because timelines shift when you resist what was written for you. When you step out of alignment, you step into a timeline that was never yours. That is why the wrong people showed up. That is why confusion stayed. That is why joy slipped through your fingers like water. But here is the miracle. Timelines can be restored. When you choose obedience, heaven can erase years of damage in a single moment. What took you 3 years to destroy can be rebuilt by God's breath in seconds. There are enemies watching your decisions too. Not earthly enemies, spiritual ones. They study your patterns, your hesitation, your weaknesses. When you hesitate to do what heaven told you to do, you create an opening, and the enemy always enters through openings. Some of the resistance in your life didn't come because you were wrong. It came because you were chosen, but disobedient. And chosen people who delay obedience attract warfare they were never meant to face. But the moment you turn, the moment you realign, the moment you say, "Enough," every spiritual attack loses its legal right to stand. You have no idea how close you are to transformation. You think you're far. You think you've ruined too much. You think you've waited too long. But heaven is closer than your own breath. There are angels standing right beside you in this moment, watching how your heart responds, watching whether you will rise or remain stuck. They have been waiting for this turning point, for you to finally see what they've been trying to show you, that your destiny has been calling your name even in your rebellion. And it's calling louder now. The air around you thickens as the unseen realm leans closer. as if the walls between worlds are thinning just enough for truth to pass through. A stillness forms, a cinematic silence that feels like standing in the center of a storm that has paused for your decision. Your spirit can sense the shift, the recalibration, the awakening that is trying to break through every layer of resistance you've built over the years. You are standing in a place where heaven holds its breath, waiting to see if you will step into alignment or return to cycles that once drained the life out of you. And in this suspended moment, you are not being judged. You are being invited. You have been asking for clarity, but clarity cannot come where obedience is missing. The divine cannot pour new revelation into a vessel that refuses to release what it was told to let go of. That is why so many doors remained closed. That is why your spirit felt like it was shrinking while your responsibilities increased. You were trying to move forward while dragging spiritual weights heaven asked you to drop. And every day that passed without action, those weights dug deeper into your timeline, slowing everything heaven prepared for you. But what you call delay, heaven calls mercy, because you were being given time to correct what you refused to confront. There are signs all over your life that you tried to explain logically, even though they were never meant to be understood with logic. The sudden emotional breakdowns, the nights where sleep escaped you as if something was tugging at your consciousness, the repeated patterns in your relationships, the strange discomfort you felt every time you were about to repeat an old mistake. These were not coincidences. These were divine warnings. They were the voice of heaven echoing through your nervous system, awakening the Eden memory embedded in your cells. Every time you felt that strange tightening in your chest, that sudden guilt, that spiritual discomfort, it was not your mind. It was your soul remembering the path it was born to walk. Someone watching this lived for years pretending that these internal alarms were simply stress, but deep down you always knew they were spiritual. You knew something was off. You knew you were living out of alignment. You felt an invisible tug, a quiet ache, a subtle pressure that only appeared when you were walking away from the truth. You silenced it with distractions, with people, with noise, but heaven never stopped calling your name. And heaven has not stopped today. That tug you feel in this very moment is proof that the divine is not done with you, and that your purpose is still alive, even if buried under layers of avoidance. Angelic activity around you has increased in the last season, not because you did everything right, but because something dangerous began forming around your life. Your disobedience created openings in your spiritual shield, small at first, then growing wider. The unseen world pays close attention when you drift, because spiritual laws respond to choices, not feelings. And the more you drifted, the more spiritual debris attached itself to your energy. That heaviness you felt wasn't depression. It was interference. That fog in your mind wasn't confusion. It was spiritual static blocking you from hearing clearly. Angels have been trying to remove these attachments, but they cannot do in the spirit what you refuse to do in the natural. But now, in this very moment, something is shifting. Heaven is stretching its hand toward you, not to punish you, but to pull you out of the consequences you walked into. You are not being abandoned. You are being awakened. There is a cleansing taking place in your spiritual environment, a clearing of old frequencies that once kept you stuck in the same emotional loops. What you're feeling right now is alignment, your entire being preparing to snap back into the path that was designed for your elevation. This is why your emotions feel louder, why your dreams feel clearer, why your intuition has been sharper. You are stepping into a timeline correction. Some of you have noticed that every time you try to go back to something that once hurt you, heaven disrupts it. Messages get delayed. People act differently. Plans fall apart. It is not rejection. It is protection. Heaven is blocking what you keep choosing, because what you keep choosing is less than what was written for you. And every time you try to force what was never meant to be, you end up feeling spiritually bruised, drained, or defeated. That is not coincidence. That is divine resistance. Heaven refuses to reward disobedience. Your destiny has been waiting for you with the patience of eternity, but it will not wait forever. There comes a point where the divine must intervene, not to punish you, but to prevent you from destroying what you are meant to become. And some of you are at that exact point right now. Your life has been feeling like it's reaching a breaking point because your spirit is outgrowing your old patterns. You cannot evolve while protecting what heaven asked you to release. You cannot rise while clinging to the chapter that is already closing. And heaven is now applying pressure to your life, not to crush you, but to push you to choose. Angels have been whispering instructions to your spirit, and though you felt them, you ignored them because they felt uncomfortable, risky, or unfamiliar. But comfort is not the environment where destiny grows. You were created for moments like this, moments where your obedience becomes the turning point for generations after you. Every decision you make in this season carries spiritual weight. Every choice shifts an atmosphere. Every yes or no echoes across realms you cannot see. That is why heaven is confronting you with such intensity, because what you decide next will determine the architecture of your future. You have carried guilt for some time, thinking you ruined everything. But heaven is not here to condemn you. Heaven is here to restore you. Your timeline can be rewritten. Your frequency can be reset. Your DNA can be realigned with its original design. Divine rewiring is already happening inside your spirit, repairing the damage of delayed obedience and awakening the purity of your calling again. There is a version of you that you haven't met yet, a cleaner, stronger, spiritually sharper version waiting behind the veil of your next decision. And that version of you is calling out from the realm of your future, urging you to step forward with courage, humility, and surrender. A quiet rumble begins to move through the unseen realm around you, as if something ancient is shifting its weight, awakening from long stillness. In the spirit, it feels like the moment right before a storm breaks open across a silent sky. You can sense that what is unfolding now is not simply a message. It is an intervention, a divine recalibration, a supernatural interruption designed to rescue you from the long-term effects of the choices you refused to confront. Heaven is not whispering anymore. Heaven is speaking in a tone that shakes the walls of your inner world, because your future is too important to leave in the hands of hesitation. There is a reason you've been feeling the sudden urge to isolate, to step back, to rethink everything, to question every voice around you. This is not your mind spiraling. It is your spirit detoxing. The divine often pulls chosen individuals into internal silence when they have been surrounded by too many voices that distract them from the truth. You were beginning to drown in the noise of opinions, expectations, and external influences. Every voice around you became louder than the voice within you. Heaven had to silence the excess so the real instruction could finally reach you. That discomfort you've been feeling is actually a sign that your spiritual frequency is rising, and anything that does not match that frequency is falling away. You are being drawn into a place where the divine can reach you without interference. This is why certain people suddenly stopped speaking to you. This is why connections dissolved without explanation. This is why individuals who once felt close now feel distant, out of place, or energetically off. Heaven has been filtering your environment, removing anything that could block your restoration or sabotage your obedience. Not everyone can stay when heaven begins reconstructing your inner world. Not everyone can stand in the presence of your realignment. When God starts correcting your path, He also begins removing the hands that were holding you back from stepping into that correction. There is someone watching this who went through a sudden emotional collapse recently. A moment where everything felt like it was breaking all at once. You questioned your strength. You questioned your purpose. You questioned whether heaven still remembered you. But what you didn't realize is that this collapse was not destruction. It was spiritual surgery. The divine often breaks what was built in the wrong shape, so it can be rebuilt in the shape that matches destiny. That moment you thought was your undoing was actually the beginning of your reconstruction. Angels were working around you, pulling out old wounds that had grown too deep, removing emotional debris that had attached itself to you through the choices you ignored. And now, because of that moment, something inside you is becoming clear again. Your intuition is returning. Your sense of right and wrong is sharpening. The fog that clouded your mind is lifting. Your emotions are aligning with truth instead of the stories you told yourself to avoid responsibility. This clarity is not random. It is divine correction manifesting in your spirit. Heaven is preparing you to walk differently, think differently, choose differently, and move with the kind of wisdom you once lacked. You are being restored in ways you did not even know you needed. But restoration always begins with honesty, and the truth is, you know exactly where you went wrong. Your soul has been holding on to a memory of the moment you stepped out of alignment. You remember the warning you ignored. You remember the instruction you postponed. You remember the shift you felt when you chose your comfort over your calling. That moment created a ripple in your timeline, and you've been living inside that ripple ever since. But here is the miracle. Heaven does not require perfection. Heaven requires surrender. And when surrender meets obedience, timelines can be rewritten. You have been living in a version of your life that was never meant to last. You have been walking through a chapter that you were supposed to leave behind long ago. That is why you feel spiritually itchy, emotionally restless, mentally uneasy. Your environment does not match your anointing anymore. Your habits do not match your purpose. Your choices do not match the blueprint that was written for you. And heaven will not let you stay in a place that suffocates your destiny. Not anymore. There is also someone listening who has been feeling an unexplainable guilt, not the kind that condemns, but the kind that calls, the kind that whispers, "You know what you must fix." This type of guilt is not your enemy. It is your spiritual compass. It is heaven reminding you of the person you were supposed to become. This pull, this ache, this discomfort is the evidence that heaven has not given up on you. If heaven had abandoned you, you would feel nothing at all. But because heaven still claims you, your spirit reacts every time you drift from truth. Right now, angels are standing on the edges of your timeline, waiting for your next decision. They are holding instructions, blessings, protections, and realignments that cannot be released until you step back into obedience. They cannot move ahead of you. They can only move with you. Your obedience is the key that unlocks everything you've been praying for. Peace, clarity, breakthrough, elevation, restoration. You do not need more miracles. You need alignment. You do not need more signs. You need surrender. And when you finally choose to walk in truth, everything that was delayed will begin to accelerate with supernatural speed. You may not realize it yet, but you are in the middle of a divine rescue. Heaven is pulling you out of the consequences you built with your own hands. You are not being punished. You are being reclaimed. You are being guided out of cycles that were destroying you from the inside. You are being lifted out of spiritual environments that were draining your energy, poisoning your purpose, and weakening your intuition. This is why your spirit feels like it's trembling. This is why your emotions feel raw. This is why your dreams feel intense. Heaven is shaking everything within you that was built on disobedience, so it can rebuild you on a foundation that will not crumble. A deep hush settles over your spirit now, as if all of heaven has leaned in, watching to see what you will choose from this moment forward. You can almost feel the atmosphere wrapping around you, like a cloak being placed on your shoulders after a long battle. The divine has brought you to the edge of a threshold, and this final moment is not about fear. It is about awakening. You are being confronted not to break you, but to rebuild you into the version of yourself that obedience was always meant to unlock. And even now, as these words reach you, something inside your chest begins to loosen, like a locked door slowly turning from the inside. The truth is simple, but heavy. You cannot carry your old patterns into your new life. You cannot expect elevation while protecting behaviors that were designed to keep you small. You cannot walk into destiny with the same hands that once held on to cycles heaven tried to free you from. This is the moment where everything inside you must rise to meet the truth. The divine is calling you back into alignment, not because you are unworthy, but because you are chosen. And when someone chosen drifts, heaven does not walk away. Heaven fights for them. That fight is what you have been feeling. The pressure, the heaviness, the unrest, all of it has been the echo of a spiritual battle waged on your behalf. Your spirit already knows what comes next. You feel it like a slow burning fire under your ribs, urging you to step out of the life built on compromise and into the one built on clarity. The divine is not asking you to fix everything in one day. You are simply being asked to turn, to return, to realign. Because the moment you shift your heart toward obedience, the universe around you shifts with it. Suddenly, opportunities that were blocked begin to open. Peace that once escaped you begins to settle. Conversations that once drained you begin to fade. Protection that felt distant begins to surround you again. Heaven responds instantly to alignment. There are blessings that have been held back, not denied, not cancelled, simply held, waiting for your spirit to step into the frequency where they can reach you. Some of you have prayed for things that could not be delivered, because the version of you who prayed was not ready to carry them. But the version of you who is awakening now, the version who sees clearly, who feels deeply, who is willing to surrender, that version is capable of receiving what the old you would have mishandled. So take this moment seriously, not in fear, but in reverence. The divine is restoring what your disobedience fractured. Your timeline is being corrected. Your spiritual DNA is being reset. Your mind is being rewired to hear truth again. You are stepping out of the ripple of yesterday's choices and into the flow of heaven's intention for your life. And once you step through this door, nothing behind you will have power over you anymore. This is your turning point. The story does not end in consequence. It ends in redemption. Rise now. Align now. Walk forward now. The divine has waited long enough, and heaven is ready to move with you.